I was holding the freshly opened pregnancy test, my hand trembling. 2 lines, red and glaring. Before I could even process the news, my phone started vibrating like crazy. It was the private investigator I had hired, Mr. Chen. I opened the video file he had sent, my fingertips turning icy cold. Under the high-definition lens, Elias Vance's sharp, chiseled face was one I would recognize even if it were burned to ashes. He was holding a woman in a wine-red slip dress, their posture intimate as they walked into the most expensive couples hotel in the city. The time was 11 o'clock last night. Below the video was a text message from Mr. Chen, M.S. Croft. Target Elias Vance entered the top suite of the Cloud Haven Hotel at 11:00 last night and left at 8 this morning. The accompanying woman is Lily Chen, a model. Lily Chen. The name was like a poison needle, jabbing sharply into my temple. I knew her. At Elias's company's annual party last month, this woman was a special guest. She had arrived on stage like a water snake, and then, accidentally, spilled red wine all over him when she came down. At the time, Elias had frowned, pushing away the hand she offered with a tissue, a look of impatience on his face. It was all an act for my benefit. A wave of nausea churned in my stomach. I rushed to the bathroom and heaved over the toilet. Only sour water came out. The woman in the mirror had a pale face, dark circles under her eyes, and her messy hair was stuck to her sweaty forehead. So pathetic. Ava Croft. You're so damn pathetic. I had been with him for 5 years, from when he had nothing to when he was sitting on a mountain of gold, when his business was at its toughest. I had worked during the day and organized his materials at night until I was vomiting blood. When his cash flow was about to break, I had secretly sold the only house my parents had left me. He had said, Ava, once I'm on my feet, I will give you the best. I believed him. Like a fool, I had given him my heart and soul. And what was the result? He was on his feet, the powerful Mr. Vance, and I had become his secret mistress, a plaything to be summoned and dismissed at will. Now, I was carrying his child, and he was in a couple's hotel, tumbling in the sheets with another woman. How ironic. My phone rang again. 2 words danced on the screen. My Elias. It was him. I stared at the 2 words as if they were a hissing snake. I answered the call. Where are you? His voice came through the receiver, deep and magnetic, with his usual sense of control. It used to make my heart flutter. Now it just made me sick. I took a deep breath, swallowing the metallic taste in my throat. At home. My voice was a little hoarse. He replied, the background noise a little chaotic. I have a dinner engagement tonight. I won't be home for dinner. You eat by yourself. Don't wait up. Another dinner engagement. When he used to say that, I would feel sorry for him, thinking he was working so hard, and I would make him a sobering soup and keep it warm. Now, I just wanted to sneer. Elias Vance. I used his full name. My voice as cold as ice. Was last night's dinner engagement at the Cloud Haven Hotel. The other end of the line was dead silent. Even the background noise disappeared. After a few seconds, his voice came through, devoid of emotion. You had me investigated. What else? I curled my lip, my nails digging into my palm. Wait for you to tell me yourself that you slept with a model last night, in a couple's hotel. Ava Croft. His tone deepened, a warning in it. Watch your tone. My affairs are not for you to question. My tone. I laughed, tears streaming down my face. Elias Vance. When you were in a hotel room with another woman, did you ever think about your tone? Lily Chen. He scoffed, with a lofty disdain. Just a bit of fun. Why are you getting worked up over her? Just a bit of fun. For light words. But they hit my heart with the weight of 1,000 pounds. This baby in my belly. Was it also a product of his fun? Elias Vance. I wiped the wetness from my face. Word by word. I'm pregnant. The other end of the line fell silent again. This time, the silence was longer. So long that I thought he had hung up. Finally, his voice came through again. As hard as a stone. Get rid of it. No hesitation. He didn't even ask if it was true. What did you say? I thought I had misheard. I said, get rid of it. His tone was an unquestionable command. Ava Croft. Don't cause me any trouble. Now is not the time for a child. Trouble. I repeated the word. The place in my chest completely cold. Frozen. In your eyes. Our child is just trouble. Not our. He corrected, cruel and clear. It's my child, but I don't want it. Why? My throat was tight with pain. Is it because of that Lily Jen you slept with last night? Or some other woman? Enough. He snapped, his voice filled with an offended anger. Ava Croft, stop being unreasonable. The child cannot be kept. It's not good for you. I'll have my assistant contact a hospital tomorrow. You be good and get it done. That's all. Beep, beep, beep. The dial tone. He had hung up, clean and simple, like disposing of an unimportant file. I held the phone, my body icy cold. The sun was shining brightly outside, but not a single ray of warmth could penetrate my bones. My stomach started to cramp again. This time, I rushed to the bathroom and vomited until I was dizzy. In the end, all that was left was bitter bile. I leaned against the cold sink, looking at the lost, desperate woman in the mirror. Ava Croft, what are you still hoping for? That he will suddenly see the light. That he will come back to you. Stop dreaming. 5 years of my youth, wasted on a dog. Now, even this piece of flesh in my belly, he considers a nuisance. Something to be disposed of. Why? Why does he get to have everything? To squander it. To play with whomever he wants. Why do I have to be like trash? Summoned and dismissed at will. Unable to even keep my own child. A hatred I had never felt before. Like a wildfire. Suddenly flared up from the cold ashes. Instantly spreading. It burned my eyes red. Get rid of it. Elias Vance. You wish. You treasure your money the most. Don't you? You built your mountains of gold and silver with shady deals. By stepping on the bodies of others. Didn't you? Fine. You won't let me have peace. Then I'll blow up your damn vault. Let's see you taste what it's like to have nothing. What it's like to feel a heart. Piercing pain. In the following days, I was unusually quiet. Elias probably thought I had accepted my fate. He had his assistant, Mark, contact me once. His tone was professional as he informed me of the time and place of the surgery, telling me to cooperate. I replied calmly, I understand. Mark seemed a little surprised by my compliance. He paused, then added, MS. Croft. Mr. Vance said that he will compensate you after the surgery. Enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. Compensation. Buying off a life with money. So damn typical of him. Thank him for me, I said, my voice devoid of any emotion. After hanging up, I opened my computer. The faint glow of the screen illuminated my pale face. Elias. You've probably forgotten. When you were first starting out, who was it that did your dirty books for you? Who was it that helped you move those specially handled funds? Who was it that set up the back door to your company's core financial system? It was me, Ava Croft. The Ava Croft you once trusted the most, and now discard like a worn out shoe. For these 5 years, I wasn't just foolishly giving. His dealings in the gray areas, his traces of asset transfers and tax evasion, even the evidence of him providing benefits to certain key figures to secure land and projects. I had kept a close eye on it all, like a nesting bird, bit by bit, in a corner no one knew. I had been accumulating the dry twigs that could prove fatal, but at that time, I had thought these things would never be used. I had thought he would be my final destination. How naive. Now, these dry twigs were the only kindling I had to light the fire of my revenge. I logged into an encrypted email account. Inside was a long, forgotten contact list. I found a contact with the codename Q. Q was a master I had met on a geek forum back in the day. He was a phantom, only caring about money, not people. I sent him an encrypted email with the information of an anonymous Swiss bank account attached. Investigate all related transactions of the Vance Corporation for the past 5 years, especially the flow of overseas funds. I want the strongest possible evidence chain. Double the price. Less than 5 minutes after I sent the email, a reply came. Only 2 concise words and a symbol. Received. Money can make the gods work, especially for a god like Q, who only recognized money. A few days later, an encrypted compressed file was in my inbox. Unzip. Open. A dense collection of documents, spreadsheets, bank transfer screenshots, and even a few blurry but recognizable recordings of his voice. It was shocking. The amount of money, the secrecy of the methods, the sheer audacity, far exceeded my imagination. Elias, you really are risking your life for money. Once this evidence was exposed, it would be enough to put him in prison for life. Enough to make the seemingly glamorous Vance Corporation collapse into ruins in an instant. I scrolled through them, one by one, my fingertips icy cold, but my heart felt like it was being roasted over a fire. Hatred burned in my organs. But this was not enough. To make him go bankrupt and go to jail. That was too easy for him. I wanted him to watch with his own eyes as the thing he cared about the most turned to dust. Bit by bit, I wanted him to experience what true despair was. The kind of despair he had given me when he had so casually told me to get rid of it. The opportunity came soon. Elias, probably to appease me, or to make sure I would, obediently, have the surgery, came back, home, for the first time in a long time. This luxurious but cold apartment he had bought for me. He came back reeking of alcohol, and the sweet perfume of Lilichin. I was sitting on the living room sofa. I hadn't turned on the main light. Only the dim glow of the wall lamps. He loosened his tie, glanced at me, and said casually, as if asking about the weather, "The hospital has been arranged for next Monday. Mark will accompany you." He didn't even ask how I was feeling, if the morning sickness was severe. I looked up and at him calmly. In the dim light, the lines of his handsome profile were still perfect, with the cold detachment of a man in power. "Elias Vance," I said, my voice very soft. "Do you love me?" He seemed to be stunned for a moment, probably not expecting me to ask such a stupid question. Then, he scoffed, his voice thick with alcohol and impatience. "Ava Croft, what time is it to be asking such meaningless questions?" He walked over, looking down at me, not a trace of warmth in his eyes, only scrutiny. "Between us, from the very beginning, wasn't it just a matter of mutual benefit? I provide the material things, and you provide companionship." He paused, bent down, his alcohol-laced breath on my face, his fingers tracing a light, flirtatious path across my cheek. "Don't overthink it. Get rid of the child, and I won't treat you badly. This apartment, and the money in the card, are all yours. Enough for you to find an honest man to take you in." His touch made my stomach churn. Mutual benefit. I repeated the words, then suddenly laughed. "Elias Vance, what you needed was my companionship. Or was it all the dirty work I did for you? All the shady accounts I balanced for you?" His movement suddenly stopped. His eyes instantly became sharp, like daggers of ice. "What do you mean?" His voice was dangerously low. "Nothing." I pushed his hand away, stood up, and met his gaze. "I just think it's not fair." "Not fair." He looked as if he had heard the world's biggest joke. His eyes filled with scorn. "Ava Croft, when has this world ever been fair? You enjoy the comfortable life I've given you, and now you're talking to me about fairness." He took a step closer, his presence oppressive. "Don't get any funny ideas. Just be good. Get rid of the child, take the money, and live a quiet life. Otherwise," he didn't finish, but the threat was thick in the air. "Otherwise what?" I met his gaze, not backing down an inch. My heart was pounding in my chest. My palms were cold and sweaty, but my voice was unusually steady. "Kick me out, or make me disappear quietly, like you're dealing with that child." His eyes turned completely cold, as if he were looking at a stranger, or rather, at an obstacle that didn't know its place. "Ava Croft." He used my full name, every word wrapped in ice. "Don't test my patience. My tolerance has its limits." "Is that so?" I gave a very faint smile. "Coincidentally, my tolerance has also reached its limit." He stared at me, his eyes dark and menacing. Finally, as if he had lost all patience, he suddenly turned. "You're insane." He threw the two words at me, grabbed his jacket from the sofa, and slammed the door behind him without a backward glance. The loud slam echoed in the empty house. It made my eardrums ring. I stood there, my body rigid, until the piercing echo had completely faded. Then, I slowly sank to the floor. My stomach cramped violently again. This time, I couldn't hold it back. With a retch, I threw up on the clean, expensive floor, a filthy mess. I looked down, at the undigested food, at my wretched reflection. Tears finally began to fall, one after another, not because of his heartlessness, but because of the clear, pulling, cramping pain in my abdomen. The baby, My hand trembled as I touched my belly. There had once been a faint heartbeat there. Now, there was only a cold and deathly pain. Blood. Bright red blood. Trickling down the inside of my thighs. Soaking my light, colored lounge pants. Like a venomous snake. Coiling around me. A suffocating panic instantly seized me. No. Don't. I struggled to stand. To call for help. To get help. But the intense pain was like an invisible hand, gripping my organs and pulling them down. My vision was turning black. The world was spinning. The second before I lost consciousness, I thought I heard a doorbell, sharp and urgent. Who was it? It didn't matter anymore. It was all over. Completely over. When I opened my eyes again, it was to the characteristic blinding white of a hospital. The cold smell of disinfectant filled my nose, and 4 was in my arm. The cold liquid slowly seeping into my veins. I blinked, my consciousness a little hazy. You're awake. A gentle female voice came from the side. I turned my head. It was a female doctor in a white coat, in her 40s. Her eyes filled with a professional concern and a hint of pity that was hard to miss. How are you feeling? Are you in any pain? I opened my mouth, but my throat was too dry to make a sound. She thoughtfully handed me a glass of warm water with a straw. I took a few sips. The warm water flowed down my dry throat, bringing a little life back. The baby. My voice was hoarse. The doctor's eyes darkened, and she sighed softly. I'm very sorry, Ms. Croft. Her tone was regretful. It was too late when you were brought in. The embryo had already miscarried. We performed a DC. The surgery was successful. You need to rest well. Although I had expected it, hearing the verdict out loud, my heart still felt as if it were being squeezed by a cold hand. Empty. It was completely empty. I stared blankly at the white ceiling, not crying. The tears seemed to have all run out that night. The doctor gave some more instructions, telling me to rest well and be under observation for 2 days. After she left, I was alone in the room, dead silent. I watched the 4 tube, the liquid falling, drop by drop, slowly. Like time, like life, flowing away irretrievably. I don't know how long it had been. The door to the room was gently pushed open. I thought it was a nurse. I turned my head, but it was him. He stood at the door, his figure still tall and straight, wearing an expensive custom-made suit, his hair perfectly coiffed, but his face was a color I had never seen before. Dark, tense, his eyes filled with red blood vessels. He walked to my bedside in a few steps, his gaze as sharp as a knife, pinning me to the bed. What happened? His voice was very low, with the fury of a brewing storm. Mark said you didn't go to the appointed hospital. How did you end up miscarrying at this hospital on your own? Ava Croft. What are you playing at now? Playing at what? I looked at his angry face, at the undisguised suspicion and hostility in his eyes. I suddenly found it incredibly absurd, and incredibly laughable. So in his heart, even my miscarriage was a trick, a game. The already numb place in my heart was stabbed hard again. I pulled at the corner of my lip, wanting to smile, but only managed to move a dead muscle. Mr. Vance is so well informed. My voice was flat and emotionless. What's wrong? Are you afraid I didn't miscarry completely? Thought I've left you with some trouble. You. He was choked by my words, his face turning pale, the veins on his forehead throbbing. He suddenly bent down and grabbed my wrist, his grip so tight it felt like he was going to crush my bones. Ava Croft. He gritted his teeth, every word squeezed out from between them. Don't you be sarcastic with me. Tell me, did you do this on purpose? To threaten me? My wrist was in excruciating pain. The 4 needle was pulled, and a sharp pain shot through the back of my hand. But what was this pain compared to the emptiness in my heart? I looked at his eyes, filled with anger and suspicion. Once, I had thought these eyes were deep and captivating. Now, I only saw a filthy swamp. Threaten you, I repeated softly, my voice like a sigh. Elias Vance, are you worthy? His pupils suddenly constricted, and his grip on my wrist tightened. That child, I met his murderous gaze, word for word, clear and distinct, was killed by your own hand. What did you say? His eyes sharpened. I said. I spat out each word with force and clarity, as if reciting the most vicious of curses. It was you, Elias Vance. It was you. That night, With your disgusting words. With your filthy hands touching me. It was you who said it was a nuisance. It was you who told me to get rid of it. It was you who said it didn't deserve to live in this world. My voice rose uncontrollably, laced with a hoarse sob and a towering hatred. It heard you. It heard how much its own father despised it. So it left. It doesn't want you anymore. It thinks you're dirty. Shut up. He seemed to have been pierced by my words. He suddenly let go of my hand. A look of unprecedented, almost wretched panic and fury in his eyes. He took a step back, his chest heaving, and stared at me, as if I were his most hated enemy. Ava Croft, you're being utterly unreasonable. He roared, like a cornered beast. You lost the baby yourself. And you're trying to blame it on me. You crazy woman. Yes, I'm crazy. I looked at him, tears finally rolling down my face without warning. Not out of sadness, but out of extreme hatred and despair. Elias Vance. I'm damn crazy. Driven crazy by you. Are you satisfied? Satisfied. He looked as if he had heard something incredibly absurd. His eyes so dark they could have dripped water. Satisfied with what? That you're talking nonsense like a madwoman. That you've turned yourself into this ghost. He tugged at his tie. Annoyed. His gaze swept over my pale face, over the blood seeping from the displaced needle on the back of my hand, and finally landed on my flat belly. His expression was complicated, indescribable. There was anger, disgust, and perhaps a flicker of a pain so fleeting that even he hadn't noticed it. But that small bit of emotion was instantly swallowed by a deeper coldness. Enough. He suddenly cut off the deadlocked confrontation in the room, his voice as cold as ice. It's over. There's no point in saying more. He took out his checkbook, scribbled his name, tore it out, and threw it on my covered legs as if tossing a bone to a beggar. This money is enough for you to recover and start over. His tone had returned to that lofty, controlling one, as if everything was back on his familiar track. Get well. Don't cause me any more trouble. From now on, we're even. With that, he didn't spare me another glance and turned to leave, as if staying a second longer would contaminate him. The doors slammed shut behind him. It seemed to make the walls tremble. The light piece of paper, the check, lay on my lap. The amount, followed by a string of zeros, a number that an ordinary person could never earn in several lifetimes. To buy off a life. To buy off 5 years of foolishness. To buy off the last of my ridiculous fantasies about him. I reached out a trembling hand and picked up the check. My fingertips were icy cold. Then, with all my strength, I tore it to pieces. Bit by bit, the white fragments fluttered down, scattered on the floor, like a belated memorial snow. Even. Elias Vance. How could we ever be even? What you owe me. What you owe my child. I will make you pay for it with everything you have. I was under observation in the hospital for 2 days. The physical pain gradually subsided, but the huge hole in my chest was still being filled with a cold wind. Elias did not appear again. Mark came once, bringing some expensive supplements, and professionally conveyed his master's message. A clean break. No more contact in the future. I calmly accepted the supplements, calmly went through the discharge procedures, calmly returned to that cold apartment, like a pre-programmed robot. Only I knew that beneath the calm exterior, the venom of revenge was boiling and burning in every drop of my blood. Hugh was making rapid progress. A continuous stream of encrypted files was being sent to me. His business empire was much larger, and also much more precarious than I had seen. His ambition was too great, his steps too fast, to expand quickly. He had taken too many risks. Illegal fundraising, insider trading, money laundering, bribing key figures to obtain profitable projects, one after another. The evidence was conclusive, especially his core vault. The several offshore and shell companies used to transfer huge profits and conduct complex capital operations had been completely exposed by Q. The flow of funds inside was shocking. All of this was irrefutable evidence that could completely nail him. But just reporting him, sending him to jail, not enough. That was too easy for him. I wanted him to watch with his own eyes as his most proud empire of money crumbled before him. I wanted him to experience what true despair was. The kind of despair he had given me when he had killed my child. A crazier, more thorough plan of revenge gradually formed in my mind. Elias, you treasure your vault the most, don't you? Fine. I'll blow it up. Not with explosives, but with a more ruthless, more legal method. Cutting off the source. I was going to expose his shady money pools to the sunlight, and let the greedy vultures flock to feast on them. A week after I was discharged, I took the initiative to contact him. I used a new, anonymous number. When the call connected, it was noisy on his end. He seemed to be at some high-end cocktail party. Who is this? His voice was annoyed at being disturbed. It's me, Ava. My voice was calm and steady. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end. Then, his voice turned cold, with an undisguised distance and warning. I told you not to contact me again. Is the money not enough? It's not about the money. I cut him off, my tone deliberately soft, with a hint of a vulnerability and fatigue that was hard to miss. Elias, I'm out of the hospital. The doctor said my recovery isn't going well. I need to take good care of myself. I'm all alone here. I'm scared. I paused deliberately, letting a perfectly timed sob escape. What happened before? I was emotional. I said a lot of things I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. I apologized in a low voice. The baby is gone. I know you must be hurting too. On the other end, there was only his slightly heavy breathing. He was listening. Elias. I softened my voice, with a cautious probing and plea. Can we meet one last time? Just to say a proper goodbye. I have some things I want to say to you in person. After that, I promise I won't bother you again. I had thrown out the bait. A chance for a proper goodbye. A possibility of getting rid of me. This trouble. For good. From what I knew of him, he had the arrogance and control of a man in power, and the calculating mind of a businessman. In his eyes, I was now a pitiful creature who had lost her child, had nothing, and still harbored foolish illusions about him. A controllable, disposable nuisance that could be dealt with one last time. He would most likely agree to trade a brief, charitable meeting for a lifetime of peace and quiet. Sure enough, after a short silence, he spoke. His tone was still cold, but the impatience seemed to have faded a little. Tomorrow afternoon at 3, at the Blue Mountain coffee shop downstairs from the office. I'll only give you half an hour. It worked. Okay. I agreed obediently. Thank you, Elias. I hung up. All the feigned vulnerability and sorrow on my face instantly vanished. All that was left was a cold calculation. Elias Vance, is your vault ready to meet its doom? The next afternoon, at 2:55, I walked into the Blue Mountain coffee shop on time. The atmosphere was quiet and private, a place he occasionally used to meet people he couldn't see at the office. He hadn't arrived yet. I chose a booth in a corner, partially hidden by a plant. I ordered a glass of warm water. My fingers unconsciously stroked the warm side of the glass. My heart was pounding in my chest, not with nervousness, but with excitement. A destructive excitement, the kind that comes from being about to light a fuse. At 2:59, the wind chime at the entrance of the coffee shop tinkled. His tall figure appeared at the door. He was wearing a perfectly tailored dark gray suit, which made his shoulders look broad and his legs long. His presence was powerful. His sharp gaze scanned the room and quickly locked onto my location. He walked over and sat down opposite me. A waiter immediately came over. An Americano. No sugar, he ordered, his gaze falling on me, with a scrutiny and a hint of a hard, too. Miss Probing. You still look terrible, he said, his tone flat. Not a hint of concern, more like an objective assessment. Not enough money to hire a nurse. Enough, I said, slightly lowering my eyes to avoid his gaze, my hands cupping the water glass, feigning unease. It's just being alone. I keep thinking about the past. The past is in the past. Don't bring it up again. He cut me off, with clear impatience. Why did you want to see me? My time is precious. The waiter brought his Americano. He picked up the cup and took a sip, his posture elegant, with a lofty distance. I looked up at him. The sunlight shone through the window, casting a faint shadow on his chiseled profile. Still so handsome, so dazzling, like a cold idol, built of gold and lies. Elias, I said softly, my voice with just the right amount of trembling and longing. Is there really no chance for us? He put down his coffee cup with a soft clink. The last of his patience was gone. Ava Croft, He leaned forward slightly, his gaze locking on me with an icy coldness. I thought you were a smart woman. Don't make me say it a second time. We're over. Completely over. Take the money. Live the life you're supposed to live. And stop with the foolish fantasies. Foolish fantasies. That was how he had defined the 5 years I had given him. My heart felt as if it had been stabbed with an ice pick. But this time, I didn't feel any pain. Only a cold numbness. Is that so? I murmured, my gaze seemingly losing focus, staring blankly at the table. Really? No chance at all? None. His answer was decisive, leaving no room for doubt. Heh. I suddenly let out a low laugh. It was very soft, but it had a strange, eerie quality to it. His brow instantly furrowed, his eyes as sharp as an eagle's. What are you laughing at? I stopped laughing and slowly looked up. All the vulnerability, sadness, and pleading on my face had receded like a tide. All that was left was a bone, chilling coldness, and an undisguised hatred, as if a mask had been instantly removed, revealing Thetrith underneath. I'm laughing at how stupid you are, Elias Vance. My voice was terrifyingly calm, every word like a nail dipped in ice. Laughing that you still think I'm that same foolish Ava Croft, who is at your beck and call, who is hopelessly devoted to you. His face suddenly changed. He sat up straight, his eyes instantly becoming extremely dangerous. Ava Croft. What do you mean? What do I mean? I curled my lip into a very cold smile. I mean, the game is over, Mr. Vance. In his bewildered gaze, I took a silver USB drive from my bag. I gently pushed it to the center of the table, in front of him. In here is all the evidence of your Vance Corporation's illegal fundraising, insider trading, money laundering, and bribery of key figures for the past 5 years. Every single fund flow, every single contract, every single recording is crystal clear. The color drained from his face at a visible rate. He stared at the small USB drive, his eyes filled with a disbelieving shock and rage. Where did you get this? His voice was as taut as a drawn bow, with a hint of an imperceptible tremor. Does it matter? I met his murderous gaze, my smile growing colder. What matters is that this evidence, if sent to the right places, is enough to put you, Elias Vance, in prison for life, and to make your Vance Corporation, which you built with your own hands, crumble to dust overnight. You dare. He slammed his fist on the table. The loud bang made the distant waiters and customers turn their heads. He was like a thoroughly enraged lion, his eyes red, his body leaning forward across the table, his powerful presence almost suffocating. Ava Croft, do you know what you're doing? You're asking for it, he hissed, every word squeezed out from between his teeth, laced with a murderous intent. Asking for it, I scoffed, unafraid as I looked back at him. Elias Vance, my child is already dead. Do you think I'm still afraid of dying? At the mention of the child, his pupils contracted sharply. A very complex emotion flashed across his face, but it was quickly swallowed by a deeper rage. What do you want? He roared, like a cornered beast driven to a cliff's edge. What do I want? I leaned forward slightly, getting closer to him, and said in a voice only we could hear, word by word, clearly and distinctly, I want you, Elias Vance, to watch with your own eyes, as your vault is blown to smithereens. I want you to kneel in the ruins of your filthy mountains of gold and silver, and taste what it's like to have nothing, what it's like to feel a heart-piercing pain. My voice was not loud, but it carried a desperate, all-consuming madness. He stared at me, his eyes shifting, shock, rage, murderous intent, and a hint of a disbelieving wariness. He had probably never imagined that the gentle sheep, like Ava Croft, would one day bear such deadly fangs. Just you. He forcibly suppressed the churning emotions, a cruel sneer on his lips, trying to regain control. A USB drive. Ava Croft, do you think you can take me down with just this? You're too naive. I, Elias Vance, have gotten to where I am today. Do you think I'm made of paper? Of course I know you're not made of paper. I calmly leaned back in my chair, looking at him with composure. So, I've prepared more than just this. In his suddenly narrowed gaze, I slowly took out my phone. Unlock. Open an encrypted email interface. On the screen, a scheduled email was clearly displayed. The recipient list was dense, full of the official email addresses of the country's top financial media and regulatory agencies. The subject of the email was written in stark letters. Formal report. Vance Corporation Chairman Elias Vance's massive economic crimes and bribery evidence, with detailed materials attached. The sending time was clearly displayed. In 10 minutes. See. Mr. Vance. I waved my phone, the screen's light reflecting in my cold, smiling eyes. 10 minutes. Only 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, all your dirty laundry will be aired out. Hung on the front page of every financial newspaper. Your vault. Heh. I don't need to blow it up. The retail investors you've bled dry. The competitors whose projects you've stolen. The key figures you've fed and who could turn on you at any moment. They will be like sharks smelling blood, swarming in to tear your vault to shreds. His face was completely ashen. He stared at my phone screen, then suddenly looked up at me, his eyes for the first time filled with a clear, immense fear. It was the fear of a collapsing empire, of an impending doom. Everything he had relied on, everything he had been proud of, was about to completely crumble in 10 minutes. You're insane, Ava Croft. You're damn insane, he roared in a low voice, completely losing his usual calm composure. He reached out to grab my phone. I was prepared. I quickly pulled my hand back and looked at him coldly. Go ahead, I sneered. What's the use of grabbing one phone? I have plenty of backups. When the time comes, it will be sent automatically. You can't stop it. What do you want? He was practically roaring, the veins on his forehead bulging, his hands clenched into fists, his knuckles white. Money. How much? Name your price. As long as you cancel the sending. He was finally panicking, completely panicking, like a stray dog with its tail stepped on. Seeing him so lost, so furious, a huge, twisted sense of satisfaction instantly swept over me. Money. I looked as if I had heard the world's biggest joke, laughing until tears almost came out. Elias Vance. At a time like this, you still think money is everything. I stopped laughing, my gaze piercing him with an icy coldness. I want you to kneel. Kneel before me, and repent for killing our child with your own hands. My voice was not loud, but it was like a clap of thunder, striking him hard. He froze completely. The color drained from his face, leaving only a deathly pallor. His pupils contracted violently, a storm of emotions churning within them. Shock, humiliation, rage, and a hint of an indescribable pain. What did you say? His voice was as dry as sandpaper, with a disbelieving tremor. I said, I repeated, word for word, clear and distinct, every word like a poisoned ice pick, stabbing at him. Kneel. For the child you killed with your own hands. Repent. Soft background music was playing in the coffee shop, but the air between us was as still and heavy as the silence before a storm. So heavy it could crush a person's spine. His eyes, in which I had once been lost, now filled with red blood vessels, were pinned on my face. A hellish fire was burning in them. A fire of humiliation, of rage, of a murderous intent that wanted to tear me to shreds. Ava Croft. He gritted his teeth, every word squeezed out from between them, tasting of blood. You're dreaming. Who is he? He was the high and mighty Mr. Vance, who could turn the world upside down with a flick of his wrist, make him kneel, and to a woman he had discarded like trash. That was worse than killing him. Is that so? I was unfazed by his fury, even curling my lip into a near, cruel smile. My fingertip gently swiped across my phone screen. The screen lit up. The scheduled email interface coldly displayed the countdown. 05:47. The bright red numbers were like the second hand of a death clock, ticking away at a person's nerves. Then let's go to hell together, Mr. Vance. My voice was light, but it carried a desperate, all-consuming resolve. After all, I have nothing to lose. To have a man of your stature as my companion in death, it's worth it. His breath hitched. He stared at the ticking red numbers, then suddenly looked at me, his eyes in a fierce struggle. Humiliation, destruction, two extreme choices, like two great mountains, pressing down on him. I could clearly see the throbbing veins on his forehead, see his clenched fists trembling from the force, see his chest heaving under his expensive suit. Time was ticking away, second by second. 04:15, 03:58. Every second was like a slow, torturous death. In the coffee shop, distant customers chatted in low voices, and a waiter walked past quietly with a tray. But this corner was like a separate, hellish battlefield. Finally, when the countdown reached 02:30, his tense body, like a camel broken by the last straw, suddenly trembled. He closed his eyes tightly. When he opened them again, the eyes that had once held the stars and the sea, now only held an endless darkness. Something inside them had completely shattered. Humiliation, resentment, anger, all of it had turned to a dead, gray defeat. His tall frame, under my cold gaze, slowly, began to shrink. His knees, heavy, with a muffled sound of bone unable to bear the weight, touched the cold marble floor. He knelt before me, before the Ava Croft he had once trampled into the dust. His head was bowed low, like a swan with a broken neck. "I'm sorry." 3 words, dry, hoarse, broken, as if he had squeezed them out from the depths of his throat with all his strength. They carried a destructive weight. They fell into the silent air, and they fell on my heart. There was no conceived joy, no satisfaction of a great revenge, only a cold, immense, suffocating emptiness. I looked at the kneeling man before me, the man I had once loved to the bone, and hated to the bone. His head was bowed. I couldn't see his expression. I could only see his slightly trembling shoulders, and the wrinkles on his expensive suit, wrinkles he had made himself, that could not be smoothed out, like a magnificent ruin, suddenly collapsed. Is this what I wanted? To crush all his pride and dignity in the most extreme way. To make him kneel like a sinner, repenting. Yes, this is what I wanted. I wanted him to feel pain, to feel the same pain as me, to pay the most painful price for everything he had done. The countdown was still ticking. 00:45. 00:44. I picked up my phone with a blank expression. My fingertip hovered over the cancel sending button. He was still kneeling, his body as stiff as a stone statue, as if waiting for the final judgment. The moment the countdown reached 00:05, my fingertip gently fell. I pressed cancel. The glaring countdown on the screen disappeared. The email that could have sent him to hell was recalled. His body seemed to sway ever so slightly, like a string that had been stretched to its limit and had suddenly been released. But he didn't immediately stand up. He remained in that humiliating kneeling position, as if he had lost all the strength and the right to stand up. I stood up. I looked down at his bowed head. Elias Vance. My voice was as calm as still water. Remember today. Remember how you knelt here. Remember this pain. Because from today on, every single minute, every single second you have, you will live in the shadow of this pain. Your vault. I sneered, my voice like an ice pick scraping against glass. Wait for tomorrow's headlines. It will be a spectacular explosion. With that, I didn't spare him another glance. I picked up the USB drive from the table and turned. My high heels clicked on the smooth marble floor. A crisp, receding sound, like a tolling funeral bell. Behind me, there was a dead silence, and the figure of a man kneeling on the cold floor, as if abandoned by the entire world. I walked out of the coffee shop. The afternoon sun was blinding. I raised my hand to shield my eyes. The sunlight streamed through my fingers, warm on my face, but I couldn't feel any warmth. Deep inside, the wound that had just begun to heal was aching again. Was it a side effect of the miscarriage, or something else? It didn't matter anymore. I walked to the side of the road and hailed a taxi. To the airport. The car started and merged into the traffic. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. The image of him kneeling was seared into my mind. I couldn't get rid of it. There was no imagined sense of release, only a vast, cold fatigue. My phone vibrated. It was an encrypted message from Q. Just a simple symbol. The plan had begun. I opened my eyes and looked at the rapidly receding city scenery outside the window. This city, which had held my 5 years of love, hate, and foolishness. Goodbye, Elias Vance. Your hell has just begun. A week later, on an unknown island in the Pacific Ocean, sun, sand, and turquoise water, I had rented a small wooden cabin, facing the sea. In the warm sun and sea breeze, my body seemed to have recovered some of its energy. The huge hole in my heart was still there, but at least, It was no longer bleeding constantly. I rarely went online. I deliberately avoided all channels where I might see news about him. But some storms are unavoidable. This afternoon, I was dozing on a beach chair. A few other Chinese tourists on vacation were watching the news on a tablet. The sound on. A female voice was reporting in an extremely exaggerated tone. A shocking scandal. Elias Vance, the chairman of the Vance Corporation, is embroiled in a financial crime vortex. According to anonymous tips exclusively obtained by the station, the Vance Corporation has long been involved in illegal fundraising, insider trading, money laundering, and bribing several key figures, with the amount involved reaching tens of billions. Affected by this news, the Vance Corporation's stock price plummeted at the opening, triggering a circuit breaker. Several of its projects have been urgently suspended. Banks have withdrawn their loans, and partners have announced the termination of their cooperation. Even more shocking, according to reliable sources, several of his offshore accounts and shell companies have been jointly frozen by the financial regulatory authorities of several countries. His carefully constructed capital vault has suffered a devastating blow. Experts analyze that the bankruptcy of the Vance Corporation is a foregone conclusion, and he himself may face multiple serious criminal charges. The Vance empire has collapsed overnight. I couldn't hear what was said after that. The other tourists were still sighing and exclaiming, TSK, TSK, tens of billions, gone just like that. He deserves it. These black-hearted capitalists, all their money is blood money. I heard he offended someone he shouldn't have. Got taken down. Who knows? But when a wall falls, everyone pushes. I slowly opened my eyes. The blinding sunlight made me squint slightly. The sea in the distance was sparkling, calm. The vault had exploded, blown to smithereens. Elias Vance, do you feel it? The pain of having nothing, of being thrown from the clouds into the mud, the despair of being despised by everyone, abandoned by the whole world. This is what you deserve. I picked up the iced coconut juice on the small table next to me and took a sip. Cold, slightly sweet. It slid down my throat. My phone vibrated on the beach towel next to me. It was a strange domestic number. I stared at it for a few seconds. I answered. I said nothing. On the other end, there was a long silence. Only a heavy, suppressed breathing. After a long time, a hoarse voice, almost inhuman, struggled to speak. Every word was as if it were being clawed out from a broken throat. Ava Croft. My vault. You blew it up. Good. Very, very good. That voice was filled with an extreme exhaustion, a bone, deep despair, and a hollow, dead silence of someone who has been completely crushed. I held the phone. The sea breeze was blowing through my hair. In the distance, a seagull skimmed over the surface of the sea, letting out a free cry. I calmly listened to the man on the other end, the man who had once been so powerful, now gasping like a dying beast. Then, I said softly, clearly, Elias Vance, this is what you call getting pregnant to force a marriage. With that, I hung up. I dragged the number to the blacklist. I casually tossed the phone onto the beach towel. I stood up, barefoot, and walked towards the turquoise, clear sea. The waves gently lapped at my ankles, cool, yet with the rhythm of life. I took a deep breath. The salty, free sea breeze filled my lungs. The empty place in my belly seemed to be gently filled a little by the vast sea and sky. The sun was blinding. I raised my hand to shield my eyes. Through my fingers, 1,000 golden rays streamed down. The light of a new beginning.